What are these false claims of widespread election fraud doing to our country right now?
They appear to be motivated in part because the president doesn't like to lose and never admits loss. I'm more troubled by the fact that other Republican officials who clearly know better are going along with this, are humoring him in this fashion. It is one more step in delegitimizing not just the incoming Biden administration, but democracy generally. And that's a dangerous path.
Trump and co. have filed a flurry of frivolous lawsuits trying to overturn the election results in key states. And Trump's challenges, really, they've just been ashy and the evidence non-existent. Yet he persists. So where is this persistence getting him, and how is his legal team holding up? I'm attorney Adrienne Lawrence, and I got the deets for you. This is Overruled. Welcome into TYT Overruled, where you get to be the judge. And today we talk about the state of Trump's many legal challenges to the 2020 presidential election. As we know, the president's goal for now is really delaying certification of the election results by abusing the court system with frivolous lawsuits that really have been thrown out with the quickness. Yet he continues to persist with it. So here are the three things that you should know that really went down this week when it comes to Trump's legal drama and the attorneys he's hired on his team. First, Trump and co. are executing a hell of a grift to cover legal fees. Trump has been hounding supporters for money to pay for his legal challenges to the election. But what he's not necessarily telling these supporters, other than putting in the fine print that nobody looks at, is that basically any donation under $8,000 will never make it to this election defense fund. Rather, the money gets split between a Trump PAC called Save America and the RNC. So for example, if a Trump donor gave $500, 300 of it would go to Trump Save America, 200 would go to the RNC, nada would go to Trump's defense fund. So as you can imagine, few Trump supporters are really in a position to donate over $8,000. I'm sure Trump knows this, yet he's perfectly fine using this election challenge thought as a vehicle to get his grift on. But I don't know if I feel bad for these donors. You know, the fact is, how are you going to give your last dime to the circus and then complain about the clownery? Second, speaking of clowns, Trump's election challenge attorneys are dropping like flies. Today we learned that the law firm of Porter, Wright, Morris, and Arthur just abruptly withdrew from representing the Trump campaign in fighting his big election challenge against Pennsylvania voting results. And this is a hell of a thing because the way the system's set up is that lawyers can be fired anytime, but they can only withdraw in certain circumstances. Generally, we don't really know why they withdraw, and we do not know here in the situation with Porter and Wright because it's protected by privilege. These are conversations between attorneys and their clients. But what we do know is that Trump agreed to let them withdraw. So that pretty much means he did not want it to become a public fight where they have to go to the court and ask to withdraw. Also, assuming that the lawyers aren't unsavory, like these lawyers who sometimes try to strong-arm clients into settlements. If a lawyer is looking to withdraw, there's a possibility that it's because the client was lying and they found out, or that they were fighting so much with the client that it was impossible to represent them. Either way, we do know that Porter Wright's attorneys were having some issues with representing Trump in that they thought this was not necessarily good for the integrity of the electoral process. And also, one of the attorneys resigned this past summer in protest of representing Trump and co. So, hey, there are attorneys out there who do not play around with their oath and they enjoy doing the right thing. But then again, there are always attorneys out there willing to engage in clownery. And that brings me to our third point. Third, Trump's attorneys are getting laughed out of court. And not to mention they're risking sanction and possibly their licenses by filing these frivolous lawsuits. On Thursday, an Arizona judge caught one of Trump's election challenge attorneys trying to offer hundreds of dodgy form-filled affidavits as purported evidence of voter fraud. And when that attorney got challenged on them, the attorney admitted that they didn't do their due diligence in ensuring that the affidavit's contents were true. So they pretty much didn't know one way or the other. So the court said, no dice. You can keep that. We don't want it. That evidence is not sound, and rejected and blocked that purported evidence. If you recall, Trump's lawyers tried some similar nonsense just last week in Arizona, where they were pushing this SHARPIEGATE lawsuit. That's that claim that the ballots filled out with Sharpies weren't being counted because they were bleeding through the forms, even though there was no evidence to back that up, that they weren't being counted. And so those lawyers who filed that SHARPIEGATE lawsuit, they went ahead and dismissed the case of their own accord within days of filing it, presumably to avoid embarrassment and possibly sanctions. All said, none of the cases Trump and co. are bringing can invalidate the number of votes necessary to overturn Biden's presumed victory in this 2020 election. There is no evidence of fraud. That's it. Those are the 3 things to know from this week's Trump election legal challenge roundup. So do you think that Trump will ever stop these legal challenges? Or that, hey, he's going to keep fighting until he's kicked out? Let me know your thoughts below. Hit me up on Twitter with #TYTOverruled. Follow us for more, and I'll catch you next time.